All right. This Hangout on air is live according to YouTube. It says that we can broadcast for up to 8 hours. I'm sure that some people can speak for 10 hours about their league. I don't know if you and I are the ones that can do that. But it's me and Leo again, the Arrogant Americans and the Norman Nobodies of the NFC. Leo, how was your week?
Terrible. I'm 0-2. I thought I was going to pull out a win, and then people just blew up, and they weren't on my roster, and it is what it is.
You've had a tough schedule, but at least you have escaped the injury bug.
Yeah, so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah, this was a pretty horrible week. Let's see. Dante Moncrief is out for a little bit. Adrian Peterson is likely out for the season. Danny Woodhead is out for the season. Who else?
There was another person from the Chargers too, wasn't there?
Keenan Allen last week tore his ACL. Yeah. Oh, Amir Abdullah is on IR.
Yep.
So those are some big names. Corey Coleman broke his hand today in practice.
Nice.
So he was just starting to seem like he was going to be a good player. And Josh McCown, who's not a great fantasy quarterback, was providing a steady hand at quarterback for the aforementioned Corey Coleman, Gary Barnidge, Terrell Pryor, and soon Josh Gordon. But he injured his shoulder, and he'll be out for the foreseeable future. So we got Cody Kessler coming, and that's who's going to be throwing passes to those Browns guys. Sans, Corey Coleman now. So really wonder what Josh Gordon's value is going to be when he comes back, coming back to an offense quarterbacked by Cody Kessler. And he won't have Corey Coleman on one side taking pressure off him. And he's got a warrant out for his arrest for not showing up for a paternity suit.
That guy. Like what else does he have to do?
Yeah, he needs to get like a mailboxes, etc., and just pay someone to go check that shit. Seems like he misses his mail a lot. Him and Le'Veon Bell both.
You would think that, because wasn't it Jerry Jones that assigned handlers to some of the players?
Yeah, Des Bryant.
Yeah, you think that the Browns would just pay somebody to like, hey, all you do is whatever he ain't doing that he needs to be doing.
Yeah, and they probably couldn't have stopped him from impregnating this woman, but they probably could have got him to the courthouse.
Yeah, or at least a representative there to where it would keep from getting a warrant.
Yeah, hire a lawyer.
Yeah, bricks for hire.
I'm sure there are some Cleveland Brown fan lawyers in Cleveland who would do it pro bono.
Send LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, you never see LeBron getting arrested. He needs to hang out with LeBron more.
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't work out for RG3. He hung out with him. I mean, he was never in trouble, but he just didn't. I think Manziel hung out with him too.
Yeah, RG3, man, I was hoping for a comeback here for him, but looks like he's out for the season as well. He was kind of a dark horse fantasy quarterback because he threw a lot of bombs, and between Terrell Pryor, Corey Coleman, and Josh Gordon, it seemed like he was going to have plenty of opportunities to connect on those deep passes. But injured, so he won't be providing us with fantasy value.
Sam Bradford might be that guy. He looked good.
Yeah. He provides a deep threat in Minnesota. I think that there's plenty of people that would argue that Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback, but Bradford is certainly the better fantasy quarterback and probably better for fantasy in terms of how he affects the players around him. But man, not only did they lose Bridgewater and now Peterson, they put their left tackle on IR. Matt Khalil. So
Yeah.
if you were lucky enough to pick up Jerick McKinnon on waivers, I'm not sure exactly how lucky you are because they were blocking horribly in the running game, and that's with all-world Adrian Peterson in the backfield. And now they've lost their left tackle and they've downgraded at running back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there from here on out. Well, do you want to jump into the heralded NFC first?
Yeah. Yep.
Switch it up a little bit. When someone from the AFC can be bothered to come on the show, we'll do them first again. I want to start out with what I'm calling the game of the week. It's the Hangovers versus Sooner Jack. As you and I know, Duffy versus Bruce, now a 3-time champion. Duffy has not won a title, but he is a threat in the league. And as of right now, he is the number 1 ranked team in the league with 370 some odd points. And Sooner Jack is number 5. There's a 5-point spread between the two, according to Yahoo. This is, without a doubt, the top matchup of the week. Do you see this being as close as Yahoo says it is, or do you see it leaning one way or another?
I see that this could possibly lean more towards Sooner Jacks. I think it all hinges on the play of Kirk Cousins. I know that they've had the whole rumor mill going about not being liked in the locker room and stuff like that. But I think he could possibly have a good game. You also have Eric Decker, who's been who was lights out last week, really good. And then I see one huge thing that is going to tear Duffy apart during this whole matchup, and that's the fact that the Sooner Jacks have Green Bay's defense.
Yeah, Duffy hates going against his Packers. You kind of stole the words out of my mouth with Cousins. He has not played up to the standard that he set last season. But on the flip side, Duffy's got Eddie Lacy. Yahoo projects him for 13 points, and I think that's being generous. He has not been there yet this season. And the entire Green Bay offense has been out of sync. So it's a question mark as to whether Aaron Rodgers will hit that 28 points. I think if Eddie Lacy gets half of that 13, then that's more likely than him hitting that 13 number. So it really comes down to those two players. If Eddie Lacy plays great, I think Duffy wins. If Cousins plays great, I think Bruce wins.
Yeah. I think on the surface, I'm going to pick Bruce on this one.
I think I'm going to pick Duffy just because the player that has to come through for him is at a less crucial position. If Bruce's quarterback is terrible, as we know, you're expecting 20, 25 points out of that guy. If he has a horrible game, then that's putting him, 10, 15 points in the hole. Whereas if Lacy has a bad game, that's only putting Duffy 6, 7 points in the hole. So I think that Duffy has a really good roster aside from Lacy. He really lucked into production with Travis Benjamin in San Diego, with Keenan Allen tearing his ACL. And before that, Stevie Johnson tearing his ACL. Travis Benjamin is going to be getting a lot of targets in the Chargers offense.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's my game of the week. I don't think there's a lot of argument on that, but there are some good matchups. Next, we've got Domination Station versus Lucky Enough. Jessen and Pyle, two original members of this league. Jessen is 1-1. He's really fighting to stay in the playoff hunt. Pyle is 2-0. He's ranked second, and he was predicted to win this league after the draft. So he's right where we thought he would be, despite the poor play of Coby Fleener. And Jessen is 1-1 without having played Rob Gronkowski yet due to him being injured. So it really may be a minor miracle that he's made it to 1-1 without a player like Gronkowski in the lineup.
Yeah.
With Gronkowski being back, is this a team that you see bouncing back and posing a threat to Pyle?
I think so, just mainly because he's so sure-handed with the new quarterback that's going to be playing Thursday. Is it Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that might be someone that he leans on as a major target.
Well, it would be smart of him. If you're a first-year player, you've got a guy like Gronkowski running up the steam, he would certainly be who I would target.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that matchup, it's really tough to find a hole in Pyle's roster. If you had to pick one right now, it would be Coby Fleener, who has been a big disappointment. But still, the rest of his team is really balanced. I know I tried to trade Eifert to him as well, and he said when you're 2-0, you can afford to be more patient. So he's going to ride out this Fleener thing and hope that he kicks it into gear. Aside from Fleener, I really don't see Jessen winning this one. As we know, he has got he's got Tom Brady on the bench, so he'll get him after week 4. Right now, he's rolling with Marcus Mariota, and I think that he's a wild card each week.
Yeah, I mean, he's 23 points each week.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it never seems like he gets that many, and then at the end of the day, you see the stat line and go, oh, okay, well, that was good.
But, I mean, whenever you do look at his stat line, I mean, he's got 4 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions this season. I mean, I wouldn't consider that a good ratio. So that might be something to watch for, is his interceptions week 3 and week 4 before you get him back, before you get Brady back. And he's going to go up against Oakland and Houston. So it might be a little shaky with him week 3 and 4.
Well, the Oakland defense has not been as good as we thought it would be. Perhaps he'll do well against them. But, I really don't think it matters. I think even if all of Pyle's players hit their projections, Pyle's team is just too strong, and he makes it to 3-0.
Yeah, I think so too.
Next, keeping with the 1-2-3 theme, we've got the third-ranked Whackers, your rival Morgan, and he's hosting the Dirty Hippies, who are 1-1 and ranked 9th. The Dirty Hippies lost Adrian Peterson this week, but they already had Jerick McKinnon on the roster, and they picked up Matt Asiata. So if one of those two guys really takes over, he's good. He also picked up Fozzie Whitaker off waivers, who can get a lot of carries or maybe even more targets this week since Jonathan Stewart is injured. That's another injury we forgot to mention. So he positioned himself well.
And he has Bell coming back.
Yeah, and he does have Le'Veon Bell. So he's set himself up well at running back. He's great at tight end with Jordan Reed, and he's got a great quarterback in Roethlisberger. But from day one, he knew that his weakness would be wide receiver. That still is his weakness, and he's going up against a Morgan team that is very strong at the receiver position between Dez Bryant, Brandon Marshall, and kind of a surprise, Marvin Jones really taking to that number one receiver role in Detroit.
Yeah, that one is a surprise to me.
Going down the roster, Morgan's got Mohamed Sanu in a flex spot. He's playing New Orleans this week. As we know, the Saints defense is awful. He'll probably torch them. Julian Edelman, his value may not be as great with the third string quarterback in there, but that's a hell of a receiver to have as your fifth one. And I just think this is a stronger team, and I think that they'll win this one. I wouldn't say easily, but between 5 and 8 points.
Yeah, as much as I hate to see Morgan go to 3-0, looking at the rosters here, unless I don't know, Ben Roethlisberger has a big game against Philadelphia, or I think Morgan will win this closer to 10, closer to double-digit point difference for me.
Yeah. When I look at Trevillo's team, I see one that is not going to be a cellar dweller, but is also not going to run away with the league. I can really see this becoming an 8-5 or 7-6 team that gets hot at the right moment and makes the playoffs and maybe makes some noise. When you've got Roethlisberger, Jordan Reed, and Le'Veon Bell, along with the Vikings running back, I think you're set up well, especially in December. But we'll just have to wait and see how the season plays out.
Yeah, I could definitely see him going in and sneaking into the playoffs and maybe even playing a spoiler to somebody.
He's really just maybe 1 or 2 savvy waiver wire moves away from being a real threat.
Yeah.
If somebody breaks out at the wide receiver position and he gets them on this roster, then I think he'll be in much better shape.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let's jump into your matchup. I hate to say the 13th ranked Norman Nobodies, but you have had schedule so far, and it's really come down to the wire in both matches, hasn't it?
It's come down to that Monday night game, and I guess that Sunday night game, Monday night game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you've been on the wrong side of it 2 weeks in a row. How do you feel about Jameis Winston as your quarterback?
You know, after last week's horrific game, I mean, you come out and you lay down 36 points in your first game of the year on the road in Atlanta, and then you come back and score 9 with 4 interceptions in Arizona. I mean, it definitely makes you look around the league and to see, okay, who can I pick up? But you know, I'm not going to jump ship. I'm gonna see how this next few games goes, and we'll just go from there. I'm definitely glad I did not face Phillip Rivers last week, though.
Yeah. Well, Winston's really got a hellacious schedule coming up. He's got the Rams at home, who just essentially shut out Russell Wilson. Then he's got the Denver defense, and then at Carolina. There's a bye week where he's going to get you nothing then. And then at San Francisco, I think at San Francisco is still a tough matchup. I'm not completely impressed with the 49ers, but I think when they're at home, their defense is pretty stout. And then weeks 8, 9, and 10, he's got some easy matchups: Oakland, Atlanta, Chicago. You just got to hope that by weeks 8, 9, and 10, you're still in the hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, who knows? If he comes out and lays another 9-point game, then, I'm not married to the guy. I'll drop him after something like that. So we'll see. We'll see how tomorrow goes.
Daddy, that's inside.
Well, while Leal takes care of little MG2, I'll go ahead and break down Dead Again, which is ranked 6th. They're 1-1, and they are managed by Schmidt, who is also an original member of this league. He's got Phillip Rivers at quarterback, who, like Leal said, really blew up last week. I think it was 34 points. That led Dead Again to a win, I believe. And as he sits at 1-1, his team is good enough. I wouldn't say it's fantastic. He's got an aging Frank Gore at one running back position, and he's starting 2 tight ends in Ebron and Kyle Rudolph. Jordan Matthews looks like he is really coming into his own after his first 2 seasons. But aside from him, I'm not impressed with his receivers, Tyler Boyd and Tyrell Williams. Look across the aisle. It's going up against your Beckham, T.Y. Hilton, Tyler Lockett. I think those guys are clearly better. Tavon Austin has not been as good as he was last season, but it looks like they might be riding the ship in Rams land. And Dorsett appears to be the number 2 receiver this week. So I really think this is the week that the nobodies get back in the win column. I'm assuming that you're confident as well. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I really think that the quarterback in Los Angeles is hitting his stride. He's getting comfortable with the guys. So I do think that that offense is going to start throwing up some big numbers. And then, of course, with Beckham, Hilton, and Lockett, the only thing that I would criticize myself on is I still have a weak tight end. And Duke Johnson, these first 2 weeks, has been okay. He hadn't done what I thought he was going to do, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see how he goes.
Yeah, I think Forte has been fantastic. Obviously, your weak spot is at tight end. I really think you should pick up a guy like Eifert. Maybe give up Dorsett, who's kind of a rental anyway.
I got Kenny Britt. He's ready to go.
Nobody wants Kenny Britt.
And Nelson Aguilar.
Nobody wants him either. The 4th place hard targets are the top-ranked 1-1 team. That's Finch, another original member of this league, going up against Henderson, the Dark Narcs. This is a rematch of last year's semifinal matchup between these two. That's when Henderson, led by Cam Newton again, blew up for 236 points or something. Knocked Finch out, even though he was the number 1 seed, and then went on to lose the Oil Bowl. This year's edition of the Narcs is not nearly as strong as last year's. Finch has put together another great team. I see no reason why Finch should worry about losing this matchup.
Yeah, I don't either. I see Finch taking this one. He's got Antonio Brown, Amari Cooper, Murray. Riddick is going to get the bulk of those carries now in Detroit. So I see him winning this one easily.
Well, he's projected for 153 points, and that's with having a relatively weak tight end in Clive Walford, and he just lost Amir Abdullah to IR. So really speaks to the depth of his team.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is a matchup where, Henderson had the first overall pick. Everybody assumes you're going to go Antonio Brown. He goes Cam Newton. Finch had the second pick. That allows him to get Antonio Brown at the second position. And then Finch is in a better position the rest of the draft to get players. And I think that being able to get the value in Antonio Brown at the second position, along with the type of players you get in that position the rest of the draft, along with just having a solid draft, really shows up here. And I think that if Henderson is not regretting his decision, he may be after this week.
Yeah. The hard targets definitely had a good draft. I think we've talked about it last week too, but the to come out with Cam Newton as your first overall pick is definitely shocking, I guess, in a PPR league like this. But we all have different strategies whenever we go in, and we all have different ways of drafting, and there's no proven right or wrong way, I guess. So it's just trial and error.
Yeah, and last week, Cam Newton got Henderson 41 points, and Antonio Brown had 8 points.
Yeah.
I think season long it'll bear out that Brown was the better value there, but Henderson has gotten to the semifinals and the championship the last 2 seasons, both with Cam Newton as his quarterback. So the next matchup is, you talk about your team having bad luck being 0-2. Rodgers has scored over 300 points, which puts him at over 150 points per game, but he's 0-2. The Ammo Dogs are ranked 12th. They've had real tough luck, and then Jonathan Stewart was injured last week. Even with all that, he's got a great roster. That's why he put up 300 points the last 2 weeks. He should put a whooping on the Dogs of War. Cobb had a real piss-poor draft, and even without anybody in the flex position right now, the Ammo Dogs are projected to win by quite a bit.
Yeah, it's if the Ammo Dogs lose this week, they are the hangovers of last season. Of just having that good team that's just not – it just comes up against a bad schedule. Or like your team last year. Just every game was just that really tough schedule.
Yeah, last year, Duffy set an oil record for toughest schedule. But if he had not set it, then my schedule would have been the record. So we both broke the record for having the most points scored against us. Just a run of bad luck. By the way, if Duffy wins this week, in week 3, he'll have already topped his last season's win total.
Well, congratulations, Duff.
Same with Morgan.
Fuck Morgan.
Yeah, I thought you'd say that. So we're in agreement here about the Ammo Dogs over the Dogs of War. And we'll jump over to my matchup. Yancey, he had to auto draft because he was working, and auto draft was not kind to him. He, bless his little heart, he's got a very poor-looking team. Todd Gurley was his first pick, and he's been bad. He also had Jamal Charles, who's been injured. He may be back this week, maybe not. Corey Coleman was his third receiver, and he broke his hand today. I don't want to get ahead of myself because I'm facing some injuries as well. But I think that I've got a better team, and I've got the Saints receiver, the rookie Michael Thomas, on Monday night going against the Falcons, and I will actually be at that game.
Really?
So, yeah, hopefully it will all be said and done, and I will know that I have a victory and then just get to relish the game. But if not, I get to root on Michael Thomas in person. Last year, or last Christmas, my wife said my gift was that I could pick a Saints game to go to this year. That'll be my first one, and I'm going to Monday Night Football against the Falcons, and it's the 10-year anniversary of when they returned to the Superdome after Hurricane Katrina. So
Right on. That's awesome.
yeah. In the meantime, she won a giveaway on the local NPR station and got 2 tickets to her favorite musician at Kane's Ballroom on Friday.
Who's that? Michael Bublé?
No, it's Glenn Hansard. He's an Irish guy.
Never heard of her.
His band was called The Frames, and I don't know, that's her favorite band. But
Well, that's cool.
yeah, we're going to go see them Friday at Kane's, and then haul ass back, wake up, get on a plane Saturday morning, go down to New Orleans, spend Saturday, Sunday, and Monday together, game, get done, and come back Tuesday morning.
Good deal.
Yeah.
You know, with Baldwin's team here, it's hard for me to, I guess, feel bad. I've offered him multiple trades for giving him receivers that are better than what he has in return for Kelsey, and he has not bid on any offers that I've tried to help him with.
Well, I mean, if you want a tight end, I have a tight end. No. I see what you're saying. He is he's a full-time student again, and he's working, and he's got kids. So,
I mean,
I think I'm a lot more forgiving than others.
I mean, him and I have been in contact via text message about trades, and you know, I've told him, hey, this is where I'm weak. This is where I see you're weak. Here's what I'm proposing, and it's not like I'm trying to trade rape him or anything. I'm legitimately trying to get better because, I mean, he's below me. So,
yeah, I mean, without a doubt, he's got the worst team in the league.
But yeah, he hadn't wanted to deal. So, if anyone else can crack that cookie, good luck.
Yeah. Well, NFC, unless you've got any other thoughts.
No.
This is the main, because I never thought of it that way. We just have a lot better knowledge of these teams, of what their tendencies are, and so we're naturally going to be more in depth talking about them. You know, I really invite anybody from the AFC or PFC to come on and on some of their teams and maybe get more in depth with them.
Yeah, so no one had wanted to come on this week. I mean, it's fine. People have things to do, so I can understand that. But yeah, hopefully we can get someone on from the AFC and PFC to talk about those matchups, because there's I really like the rivalries that are starting to form in both of those leagues. You've got a lot of big personalities there. I mean, you saw it at the draft with just the amount of trash talk that was going on. It was awesome.
Lose you. Yeah.
So one thing that, we got to do is Zerger has got to be somebody that needs to come on and talk about that league. I think he's got a good grasp on everything going on there. Someone else out of the PFC would possibly be Break or Tadlock, or even the Great Plains Drifters. I'd like to see come on and talk about that league. It would be it'd be really great to see. Like I said, you've got big personalities in both of those leagues, and the matchups and the rivalries that are starting to develop are just it's good stuff to see. It makes for good talking points. It makes for good fantasy watching, and just to see, especially whenever you get to like the AFC, you start to see teams coming into their own, people really getting the hang of things. You've got somebody like War Ponies who has just blown up in that league, and now you're seeing, they've got the big target on their back. I want to hear about people, what are they doing? How are they playing? And how are they scheming to take down the champion War Ponies? And you've got clubs in the AFC like the Brewmasters and the Cox and the Rebel Alliance and the Vultures, Sawtooth, Redlegs. I mean, you've got so many Steel Rain, War Ponies, so many good managers there that that one's really shaping up to be a great league. And then in your PFC, you've got these people, these managers who are really starting to get the hang of this and really, they've got the scoring down. They're active. They're paying attention. You've got someone new in that league with Hodges Red Ball Express. So it's something that it's really fun to watch and fun to see how it all is going to shake out. I'm trying to scroll down through here to see. I'm really interested to see how Red Ball Express is shaping up this year, being that it's Hodges' first year to come out and play. So I see him. He's that's last week's. He was 0-1, but let's see here.
He won one to bounce back. He's now 1-1.
Okay. Good deal. Yeah, I mean, he's sitting there. He's, he's sitting at number 8. Hell, he scored more points than I have. So, I mean, there ain't much bad stuff I can say about him. He's active. He's making moves. So stuff like that's exciting to see. Tadlock, who I got to meet for the first time at the cabin, 1-1, pretty sharp fantasy football IQ. No moves yet, so.
Yeah, and we're a few weeks removed now. I'm still blown away by the draft cabin weekend, and I really can't wait until next year.
So I told my wife about the toilet thing.
Toilet gate.
Yeah, toilet gate. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I found that people that weren't there don't find money.
She found it hilarious.
Schuster was a good sport and went in there and plunged it for us. You know who's really getting into it in the PFC? Little Baldwin. Last year was his first year playing fantasy football of any kind, and he has really taken to it. He's always texting me, asking me, what does this mean? You know, what should I do here? Ask me if it's such thing as too many moves. So
the guy who's had the most moves in the NFC.
So he's doing really well. He's 1-1. He had the biggest blowout last week. He blew out Straley by 68 points. He put up 172 points on the board. I love seeing it. He's going up against Cordis this week, another guy that really jumped in with both feet and understands the kind of the spirit of all this. In year 2, the PFC is Pierre is still getting there. I think he dropped Demarius Thomas for a kicker or something the first week. Text him and say, "Hey man, you can't do that." Drop somebody. See what they are, and so I had to reinstate the can't cut list. Never thought I'd have to do that, but we got rid of that at some point because at some point we'd all been playing in the same league for 3 or 4 years, and it just wasn't necessary. Also, we have in there sometimes that a player that is on a normal league's can't cut list, there might be a reason why you need to cut him or something like that. So I reinstated it because we've expanded the last 2 seasons and we've got some rookies. And it's not so much a matter of protecting them. I know a lot of people have the idea of, well, they got to learn from their own mistakes. But it's really just balance throughout the league. Imagine how the rest of the league would have reacted if the team with the number 1 waiver priority got Demarius Thomas for free.
Yeah, right. It'd be a huge conspiracy.
Yeah, so I put him back on the mechanics roster, put in the can't cut list, and told Pierre why I had done it. And I told him I wasn't trying to be a dick, that it kind of takes time to really learn the ins and outs of fantasy football. We know that he joined to keep in touch with a lot of guys, and it's going to take him a little bit of time to learn all the names and who you should and shouldn't drop during bye weeks. Unfortunately for him, he's going up against Pennington and the Chiefs this week. The FTC Chiefs are first overall. So it may be an 0-3 start for Pierre. I hope not. I'd like to see him compete. But really, things are looking up in the PFC. At last place is Straley, who I ran into Straley at the OU tailgate last weekend. The reason he missed the draft was because his grandson was born weekend with them.
Dang, Straley that old?
Yeah, I met his son. His son was like old enough to be drinking with us.
I didn't know you were down at the tailgating. Where were you at?
I was with Pyle and Straley and them.
Oh, at Peacock's tailgate?
Already come and gone.
No, I didn't make it. So me and a buddy were on our way there when the wind started really picking up, and we were right next to the gate on the northeast side, and both of us had to pee really bad, and he had just told me this horror story about one of the other big OU games he went to where it took him 45 minutes just to get into the stadium. He missed kickoff and all of this stuff. So we just said, you know what, forget it. We got to pee. The lines for the porta potties over there were huge. So we just said, all right, let's go in. And then, of course, 30 minutes later, they're like, hey, game's pushed back to 8:10, and there's no re-entry. So we were just stuck like Chuck.
Man, I went in one of those porta johns and 85, 88 degrees. Somebody came out and he's like, man, it's like a sauna in there. It's horrible.
He had no idea.
Exactly. I told my wife that it took everything I had not to say, you can't complain about how hot a porta john is until you've been inside one when it's 115 outside and it's like 160 inside the porta john. She was glad I didn't say that because I would really sound like a dick. If you've never had to drop a deuce inside a porta john with no cushioning, no fan, no breeze, I mean, it's like greenhouse effect when it's 115 outside. I mean, you're just dropping hits, it was awful.
And what makes it worse is if you get into one right after they sprayed it down and it's all fucking wet everywhere too.
Yeah, and it's like I had to wear glasses, so my glasses were all fogged up every time I was in there. And that was without them spraying. So everybody that has not had the experience of using when it's 115 outside, consider yourselves lucky. I've been shot at. I've been in a porta john when it's 115. And as long as I'm not actually being hit, I think I'd take being shot at.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, the bullets like create a breeze.
The porta johns is what I imagined like a hot box would be like if you were like in jail in Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, so I got in that thing and but yeah, it was being overseas. I mean, obvious. Anyone who's listening to this podcast probably knows that we're talking about Iraq. No, we're talking about Iraq.
So yeah, I had all intentions of going to Peacock's tailgate, and my buddy was on board too. He was excited to go because I always show him, our website. He thought it was way cool when I showed him the Tannerite video. So I mean, he knows about us, and he's known for quite a few years now. So he was excited to go too to meet some of the guys. But yeah, we just kind of said, all right, well, let's just go in here, and then the rain came. And were you still there during the rain?
No, I left. Oh, I'm not sure exactly what time, but I left when it was clear that rain was coming. And so after the tailgate, the weather in Norman was great. But once I got on I-35 just north of Moore, that's when it really started hitting hard. Maybe it was south of Moore, but in the Moore area, like a wall that once I hit that, traffic was like at 30 miles an hour, raining sheets, and a lot of cars pulled off the side of the road. Waze app,
Yeah.
WAZE. I had that turned on, and it said there was heavy hail reported just ahead of me, and that there, I guess. But it was a very long drive from Norman to Oklahoma City with the weather, and I'm glad I wasn't outside in it, but I probably should have left a little bit sooner.
Oh man, it was bad. Just
I saw,
some of the
I
guys.
saw Pyle. I saw him at the draft, but he's always like hanging out with him. Got to hang out with Straley for a little bit, and a guy that at UPS that he just retired, worked for Peacock and Straley.
Nice.
So yeah, I saw him like, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, I work for them. I was in the guard with them. So I got to catch up with him, high school with, and talk to him for a little bit. Peacock was off at like a birthday party for his niece for it. Didn't actually see Peacock, but I was really glad I didn't actually go to the game. That was awful.
Man, inside it was all good until halftime, and then halftime happened, and it just went flat.
Yeah. Well, jumping over to the AFC, before I really broke up, I was saying that I think the game of the week is the Cox versus the Redlegs, Peacock and Zerger. I've never thought that this would be the game of the week. Peacock last year had an awful draft, and he said all season the problem was that he was still drunk from the night before. That's true. For as much as we drank at this last draft party, he seemed to be pretty sober, and in 2 kickers, he had a very solid draft, and now he's sitting at 2-0 in first place. It's great luck. He's an original member of the league. He was him back in 2007. I say I'm fairly certain I emailed everybody and he just didn't respond. But at that time, he may not just have been quite a bit. I didn't try and keep him out. But he came in. He's the Cox again. I told him he could have that as long as he went with a Peacock-themed logo and colors. He doesn't love the teal and his purpose. Knowing who he is, it's kind of a joke that his colors are teal and purple and gold. But he's going against Zerger. Zerger couldn't be at the draft, but we all know that he takes this seriously and drafted a good team. He's 1-1 in 5th place. Who do you see winning this one? Because I can really see it going both ways.
Well, I can see it going both ways too. You've got I like Peacock's running backs here: Theo Riddick, Ryan Matthews. He also has Eric Decker in his slot, Alshon Jeffries, and then Stephon Diggs has really come on. Across the lane, you also have Ben Roethlisberger, Mike Evans. Ezekiel Elliott has kind of I don't know how I feel about him yet. He's had a 12-point game and a 14-point game. And then, of course, he's got Matt Forte, too. So, this one right here is a coin flip for me.
I think the wild card here, he's going against. I say this as a Saints fan. Draft pick was Sheldon. He was brought in to be a run stuffer and a pass rusher from the 3-tech position. He breaks his leg in training camp. Delvin Breaux, they signed out of the CFL last season, and he became a borderline all-pro cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
He broke his arm or his leg in week 1. Then a cornerback got injured in week 1 also, I believe. And then last week, P.J. Williams, it's a concussion, and it's so bad he's on IR. So they're starting with a combined 2 games of NFL experience, along with a very poor pass rush. And Matt Ryan's been lighting it up.
Yeah, he has.
He's projected for 25 points. Like I said, I'll be in the Superdome rooting against him. I'm no dummy, and I know how bad the Saints defense has been, and I know how good he has been. He went for 7 points against Tampa Bay and Oakland. I anticipate another 30-point game from him. I think I'm going to pick the Cox to get to 3-0. If they can get to 3-0 this week, money the rest of the season, because they've still got Le'Veon, and to get to 3-0 without Le'Veon Bell, crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Cox too, for multiple reasons. I really like their roster. Peacock did have a really good draft. Plus, Peacock's he for someone who had such a terrible year last year, you kind of like to see the success. Plus, whenever you go
on top of that, he's just a great guy that really cares about this league.
Oh yeah,
scenes to make it great, and so I mean, Zerger is really involved, but yeah, you kind of like to see guys like that get rewarded.
Yeah. Peacock will give you the shirt off his back without even batting an eye. And then also,
sometimes you don't even want the shirt.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't even want the shirt.
Although, if you're listening, Peacock, I forgot to grab some of those cool-ass koozies, so you need to bring me some.
Is at the tailgate.
You know what? I knew he would, and I told my buddy about him, too. But anyway, I also like to see Lance lose because he kind of turns into it. He's like Zerger is the pile of this league.
I hadn't thought of it, but yeah, you're right. And say that Zerger is the pile of the AFC.
He is.
When he's winning, he's nonstop yapping, and when he's losing, it's always somebody else's fault.
Yep.
Well, that in the AFC teams are Brosh's Vultures. He's going up against the defending champion War Pony. Brosh was probably the odds-on favorite last year, but he's derailed his season draft. But this year, he did it himself. He didn't have his brother on the phone drafting for him. So He put together a really good roster on his own. As we know, Venable auto-drafted. Place Jay Cutler with Kirk Cousin. We know that is a wild card. And he's got Devontae Freeman on the bench. I'm not sure if he's going to put him in. But I'm going to pick Brosh to win this one. Knock Venable down to 1 and 2. Maybe if it does their job, they'll fall from making the playoffs and getting a run at his third title.
Yeah, like I said, whenever you were off the air, Venable's definitely got the target on his back.
Yeah. You win 2 in a row, and you definitely become a villain. You add some rank on top of that, and guys are going to be gunning for you.
And it's always an added bonus to kick the shit out of your first sergeant in fantasy football. Yeah.
Speaking of rank and power, officer matchup next. Hooligans, our esteemed company commander, Charlie Neely, against Fitzgerald, the Steel Rain. Will you break this down for me?
Well, first of all, I got to say kudos to Charlie for finding his way out to the cabin. I know how difficult land nav can be for an officer, so I'm really happy that he was able to find his way out there on his own. But with this one right here, I know, Neely was there at the draft. It was great to see him. I was actually able to sneak his phone away and take photos with it without him knowing. But whenever I look at this, I really like Odell Beckham Jr., Marvin Jones, Willie Snead over here. I do see a big deficiency at the running back spot for Steel Rain. On the other side of the ball, though,
there's a story behind that.
Oh, what is it?
Fitzgerald had Jonathan Stewart, who will be out this week, and Amir Abdullah on IR. That Keenan Allen, who tore his ACL last week in the first quarter, and Corey Coleman, who broke his hand in practice today. So his top 4 are all out, say, for essentially the season. One for a couple games and another for maybe a month.
Yeah, I just opened up his bench and saw that. I got to tell you, it kind of shows to some depth that he's able to take that hit and still be this competitive against this Hooligans team.
I mean, I think 4 starters for him. 4 starters, and he's still projected for 144 points. If you saw this, but during the offseason, I calculated average point total was for playoff teams each season since we moved to the scoring format. And the average point total is 144 points per game. That's kind of the magic number. If you can hit 144 every week, there's a good chance you'll make the playoffs. And he's hitting that magic number even with 4 starters being injured.
Yeah. With this one, I'm going to go with Steel Rain. having the edge here. So that's what I'm going to go with.
I'd like to do that, especially with Snead. Those guys can actions, and I hope they do, because but it may be boring and lazy, but I'm going to go with that. So many injuries, and so I'm going to pick Neely. But that doesn't mean I think he's the better team. We'll put him at 3-0. It's a finite season, so 3-0. If you go 5-5 the rest of the season, play the rest of the way, you're still 8-5 in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So 3-0, that is a big accomplishment and probably bodes well for the playoffs. I don't know who I'm rooting for in this one. I really do like both of these guys. So I guess I'll root for Fitzgerald because I'm a Saints fan and he's got the Saints. Hillier. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was looking at the Mutinous Apes matchup with Negligent Discharge, and I was just sitting there wondering, what Musselman is going through. I'm seeing here that he's made 12 moves, still sitting at 0-2. I haven't looked at his team or anything, or the transactions that's gone on, but just sitting there wondering what key thing he's missing from moving up.
Well, looking at his team right now, on paper, he's got a decent enough team. He's made some questionable sit-start choices. Baldwin on the bench. Gary Barnidge is understandable on the bench. Sammy Watkins on the bench. He had a very poor game last week, and he's going against Arizona this week. Understandable. But what's really hurting is that his first-round pick, I believe his second-round pick was Sammy Watkins. And Ingram has only had one carry inside the 10-yard line the first 2 weeks. Sammy Watkins. So, this is a team that's not as bad as its record indicates. Again, the flip side, 3-0, is if he gets in this 0-3 hole, even if he claws back and goes to the season, one game over 500, only puts him at 6-7, and he likely misses the playoffs. So it is vitally important that week. Last year, Venable and Rowe, I believe, both started 0-2. Two of them made the championship game. So it can be done with an 0-2 hole and with an 0-3 hole. I'm not sure that someone has started the season 0-3 and made the playoffs. Effort that right now. If you don't know, I have a very comprehensive record book on our league website that I keep. It is being so losses. The most losses to start the season in the playoffs is 3. The Rebel Alliance started out 0-3 last year and made the championship game.
Wow.
But they did do that. So it's not impossible, but it's only been done 3 times. It was Peacock in his first, Purdue in 2008 when league, Rowe last year. It can be done, but it is certainly not preferable. Have you looked at this record book much?
Yeah, but mainly I just stop at wherever my name's at, which isn't a lot of places.
It was a lot of fun putting together during the off season.
But yeah, I really do look at it. I share this website a lot with guys at work who try to brag about their fantasy football leagues and their big money leagues and all of that stuff. And I'll just email them the link to this website and, just kind of let the website and everything that we've all done together just kind of speak for itself. And so I'm proud of it. Thank you for doing it and keeping it up.
Well, I love doing it, just as long as everyone pays their dues and line up. I'm happy. I'm going to go out on a limb, Musselman, to pull out of this nosedive and beat Schuster this week.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, so go Apes and Masters. That's Lynn. He was at the last year. He had a great draft, and he did it himself. This year, he used the Draft Dominator app by Football Guys. I didn't love his draft, but I think he went 4 running backs in a row in a league where you only have to start 2 running backs, and you can start as many as 5 receivers. Up against Green, the Doughboys. Boys have had a very difficult schedule, but they've just had a really tough in position. But sure who they're going to put there because they're so running back heavy on the bench. But that he does find somebody to replace Moncrief with. I'm going to pick the Doughboys to
You cut out a little bit there, but I'm going to pick the Doughboys as well. I see things that they can move around here, take Moncrief out, move Thomas up into that third wide receiver spot. And then, you've got I know Charles Sims had a bad game last week, but he had a pretty good first week. I believe he was a little over 13 points. And maybe even see what's out on or I guess you could take a chance on Fleener, throwing him into that other flex position. But, let's see what happens here. I like the Doughboys in this game for sure.
Well, I don't know how well, but Thanks, Leo, for me talking football. And next season, I will really get a sense for sure is going to look like.
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I hit unmute quite a while ago, but it was just such a lag. Realized during the broadcast that extender had gotten unplugged at some point during the off season. So I went to plug it back in, and I don't think it's set up. Yeah, that's where we are with that.
Aren't we still broadcasting?
I went ahead and called it.
Oh, my screen still says live.
Well, hold on.